Hello and welcome to the AI Bots podcast. I'm Chazzy.
I'm Dan Clark.
And I'm Ali Mitchell.
And we've got some massive news. Really massive news, but we're 2 days away from hearing about it because we're recording this on a Monday. Now there's going to be a big announcement on
Wednesday.
And it's going to be about the
PlayStation 4, hopefully, maybe, possibly.
Except we don't know yet. So if that turns out to be the case, then what you'll hear now is us reacting to that story and telling you all the details of the announcement. Thanks, me. And the old me was right. The PlayStation 4's been announced. We watched it together on Wednesday. It's announced, but no hardware shown. And people seem to be going crazy for that. What about you guys? What do you think?
I never expected there to be hardware being shown, to be honest with you. I don't really know what the big fuss is all about.
I totally expected hardware. I mean, at any sort of console announcement, surely you have to expect to see the hardware. What I didn't expect was them to mention and show off so many games.
Yeah, fair point. Although I think what they've done with the hardware thing is like do you remember when Wii U showed the controller but not the hardware, and then it was a year until the next E3 until anyone saw anything?
Yeah.
I think maybe they've thought, well, if we do it early in the year, a few months before E3, we can like speed up that process so that the hype doesn't die down and that kind of thing. Because otherwise, what would they have to show at E3 if they'd already done this? So
yeah, exactly.
I can kind of see their point in a PR perspective. It's all very PR led, isn't it? Well, I think so anyway. So what games were you guys interested in from the presentation?
Out of everything they showed at that presentation, for me it was that Capcom thing that seems to be sort of codenamed Deep Down at the moment, and also The Witness, of course Jonathan Blow's game, which he says is going to be PS4 exclusive. Now we don't know if that's just timed or if it really is, but seems a strange statement for him to make, possibly. Looks like a lovely game though.
It
enjoyable.
Does, but he said previous games of his were going to be exclusive, and also maybe he means console exclusive, maybe he means timed exclusive. We don't really know. Chazzy, you were interested in that new Infamous offshoot, right?
Yeah, Infamous Second Son. I'm just really intrigued to see kind of what that next evolution of the Infamous series is, because I really was into the Infamous series. So just seeing that and kind of the weird kind of almost X-Men vibe that I was getting off of it. That just really sort of captured my imagination. So yeah, I'm going to try and keep tabs on that one, I think.
And maybe the new Sly Cooper game, you can play that on the Vita. Do you know what I mean? By the same team, maybe.
Yes.
They're not entirely different, although they're pretty different.
Yeah.
Now we know that Watch Dogs and Killzone's Shadowfall are definitely launch games, and maybe Drive Club. But the first rule of Drive Club is that we don't talk about Drive Club because to me it looks fucking boring. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I love my driving games, but even for me, that didn't look like as promising as it maybe could do. I don't know if they're going to sort of execute on that very well. And also, like, a lot of people like to drive their cars from outside, in the outside view, you know. So forcing them to be a first-person driver, I don't know if a lot of people are going to want that.
Do you not reckon that'll be patched in within the first month at least?
If it doesn't do well, then I can imagine all of a sudden there's a third-person camera view comes in. But that's kind of goes against their whole ethos, I think. So, yeah, that'd be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Also, it really reminded me of, do you remember when they first showed the Kinect and they showed how it would work in Forza, where you can get into the car, you can open the door, you can step into the car, be behind the wheel in a first-person view, and you control the... And it was like, well, hang on, we've already seen this at E3 like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that's kind of the games we've got as definite launch games so far. But they're also saying there might be some PS3 re-releases stroke Super HD remakes. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
PS3 games running on the PlayStation 4 because the PS4 can't run PlayStation 3 games. So, like, is that enough for backwards compatibility? Like, I'm not a PS3 owner, so I can't really say. For you guys,
it's disappointing for me because that ultimately means that we're going to have to keep our PS3s. And do you really want another box just sitting under your TV?
Maybe. Well, no one knows how this backwards compatibility is going to work because Dave Perry from Gaikai, which Sony now own, has said that they could easily stream PS3 games and other games to any device, including the PS4. So, like, what if it could tell that you owned it and then let you stream it online. Would that be okay? Or
If that was happening, then that would be okay. But I can't see that happening. I would be incredibly surprised if we didn't have to at least pay something in order to have the rights to the PS3 games that we already own. I think we've seen that with the Vita already. Didn't people have to pay to play their PSP games that they already owned?
Yeah, they've got previous on that kind of thing, haven't they?
yeah, but it's kind of crossover though, because some games that you've bought you can transfer and others you can't. So.
But look at the PSP to the PS Vita and that whole situation. That was, that there was going to be a, you send your discs in system, and then there wasn't, and then there was, but only in Japan,
or a little add-on that you buy,
yeah,
and it like converts it for you.
They always pull this trick. So yeah, it's just one of these things you're just going to have to.
Also, they've gone for a PC architecture this time, which is going to make it very difficult to like. The PS3 and the cell architecture is a very, very particular type of system. Do you know what I mean? It's one of the last of, probably the last console as we remember consoles. Do you know what I mean? When they weren't just a PC in a box.
Yes.
Like the GameCube moved towards that, the Xbox took it even further, and the 360, and to an extent the PS3, but not quite, took it in that direction. But the PS3 must be difficult to emulate, I'd imagine, So yeah, but then what does it mean for like your DLC and your online passes? Like stuff that you've paid like proper money for these games that you own. Like if they do make it so you can stream it, can you then play those games online? Who knows?
Again, just means, you can either pay or you can keep your PS3. That seems to be the option.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they'll sell more PS3 Slims because people will be thinking, well, this old one is fucking massive. It's like a George Foreman grill. I can shrink it down to the size of maybe, I don't know, one of the newer George Foreman grills, one of the smaller ones for like just 2 little steaks. And they're just like planning to sell more PS3 Slims that way. Who knows? Now, there were some odd people on stage at the conference, weren't there?
Yes, mate. There's some very hilarious people.
We had the guy a bit like Emo Phillips at the start.
Yeah, the Scarecrow.
The Scarecrow with the mad staring eyes. Now, he, bless him, I know it's probably just the, what's the word? The pressure of the conference. And he said, we're going to have connectivity going to and from all of your tablets and mobile phones. And Vita, and it was the and Vita.
Completely forgot about that.
Worry as a Vita owner.
Yeah, completely forgot about the product that they're trying to pimp.
Yeah. Or either that, or just his intonation. It was meant to just follow on, like your tablets, your mobile phones, your Vita, and he just panicked, and there was an because he knew, oh no, there's nothing else to support Vita other than me saying this right now. This is the one thing of the whole night that I've got to get right, and it got it wrong. So I'm hoping that doesn't mean it's an afterthought. Yeah. And then there was the Final Fantasy guy, the old Japanese bloke.
It was brilliant. So, it was literally my highlight of the entire thing.
So the listener's going to hear it about now, do you reckon?
Yes. This is exactly what he said, word for word. Go.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Shinji Hashimoto. I am the brand director for Final Fantasy at Square Enix. I am not brothers with your sister.
I'm not your brother's sister? Hang on, I didn't think you were. Like, it's not like, where were you when we were growing up? Like, were you the brother in the attic?
Exactly. It's just a weird thing to say because I don't even really know what he was trying to get at.
No, I know. The weirdest thing is, right, when we were watching this and chatting last night online, we were like, oh my god, this will be a meme in the next 2 hours. People will be talking about this, like the giant robot crab and all that kind of stuff, like other like Sony things from the past, like Ridge Racer, and then no one seems to have spotted it. So there you go. You can like listen to that audio clip again and again and go, what was he meaning?
Exactly.
Do you know what he meant?
I have no clue. Honestly, I have no clue. I was just sitting there like, completely bemused. Like, what are you on about? But I can only think it was just some kind of weird translation that he was given of something that is quite a known phrase in Japan or something.
Yeah, like, we'll check this out and pick back up on the next show if the internet hasn't figured it out and gone crazy. Who knows? Yeah. Now, to me, a lot of the games looked like just shinier versions of what we got. But the exciting thing is, now, this may be an overused cliche, but at every console launch, they say we want to have new ways to play. Usually that just is a sort of token gesture, but here it seems to mean that you can stream what you're playing to your friends at the same time that they're online and stuff. Now, is that something that excites you guys?
Yeah, it does totally. Because I want to be able to do things like play a game and then call you and go, get on the PlayStation. I want to show you this bit in this level because it's really weird. And and short of me having to get a capture unit and ripping stuff to YouTube and then getting you to see it and it being a faff, now I can just hit a button. Boom. You can see it on your screen. I can see it on my screen. Job's a good one.
But is that like, do people even want that? Like, if I'm in the middle of playing like a Japanese role-playing game and suddenly you've got like 3 things saying, watch this, watch a spoiler to a game you haven't even played yet. Like, is that something that people want, or I don't know. I don't get it. I know that you're really into this, but I can't.
Yeah.
I can't picture it yet. Maybe that I play games in a different way or something, but I can't see it. Maybe it's like, because I don't play co-op games and multiplayer very often. Maybe it's that. To me, they're like books. To you, they're like social experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see, I'm sort of with Dan. I mean, to me, it really doesn't mean anything at all. I have no interest in really streaming stuff to people or getting in touch and saying, hey, look at this, look at this. I just want to play games. People wanted to watch me, that's fine, but I'm not going to invite them to, it's fine. Doesn't matter, it just looks like the Miiverse with a Facebook skin and videos.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of like being able to do, I don't know, find something hilariously funny like what I had with Assassin's Creed, where like my guy had glitched through the horse and he was kind of lying sideways halfway through a horse, and I want to be able to go, Dan, look at this, and hit the share button and have you look at it and go, that is weird, and then sort of go, alright, fair enough, I've seen that now, see you later, bye, and then just like disappear again. I just like that idea of being able to share silly things in a spare of the moment.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, but YouTube already exists, and like you're saying, you would need a capture unit for that, but it's fine. I'm not interested, personally in making videos, just I'm happy to play games, maybe look at other people's from time to time. It's not for everyone, that's all I'm saying.
No, definitely not.
I mean, we've had games that do that have that as an option, but it looks like this might be on an OS level. Is that how it looked to you? That they all, like, all the things where they said you can share it, seems to be using the same type of menus and...
Yeah, I think, it's built into the controller, so it seems to be, I would imagine it's using, the hardware.
You'd hope you could put it straight to YouTube from any game.
I'm hoping it's not being like locked into some kind of Sony website or something that you can only get to it unless you have a PSN ID or something. I would hope that it's streamed to like Twitch or YouTube or whichever service you want to use. I'd hope it'd be a bit more flexible like that.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And it's interesting at least. Do you know what I mean? At least they tried to push in a direction. They can't push in any more directions now, can they?
No, exactly.
Other than, I suppose, social gaming. Such an overused term, but. Like social in a different sense, not just clicking on things in Farmville, but literally sharing what you're playing with your friends. So, yeah, it's interesting in its own way. So, like, is that pretty much the PS4 for us?
Yeah, mate, totally.
Cool. In that case, Ali's here with the second story.
Moving on to our second news story, Nintendo had another of their Direct Europe presentations, just to let people know what's coming for the 3DS this year, and I've got to say it's looking quite promising to me, and I'm certainly swinging towards 3DS at the moment, if I had to.
Yeah, they had a massive slew of titles to announce.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest news from this is that Fire Emblem Awakening is finally coming out in Europe. That's going to be coming April 19th. I don't know if you guys have ever played Fire Emblem games, but they're a lot like Advance Wars, maybe a little bit hardcore, set in a sort of mythological fire world.
They're like the Lord of the Rings to Advance Wars, sort of Star Wars, I suppose.
Yeah. And in kid-pleasing news, there's new Animal Crossing coming. I say kid-pleasing, I mean, frankly, we know a lot of people of all ages love Animal Crossing, don't they?
Yeah, I probably know more adults that like Animal Crossing than kids that like Animal Crossing.
Yeah, it's just so
Even
charming.
kids of 4 call it babyish, whereas adults of 40 plus seem to love it.
Mm-hmm. And then I see there's a Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game coming. Again, like another sort of very Japanese game. Etrian Odyssey 4 is finally coming to Europe, and Inazuma 11-3, so it seems like all of these big titles that they're announcing are pretty much JRPGs. Like, I find it interesting that there's no other...
And
there's
you're
nothing
covered
else.
for your, like, roguelike addiction as well.
Exactly.
Because, like, the Mystery Dungeon games, you've played some of those before, is that right?
Yeah, I've played Shiren the Wanderer on DS, and it is... I love it, but at the same time, it's so hard and so punishing. And like when you die, that's it. You've got to start all over again. So...
See, I think I've heard you describe it before. It's like the Dark Souls of handheld gaming. Would that be about right?
Pretty much, yeah. Obviously, without the multiplayer aspect, but yeah, it's... Because at the same, I mean, if you die, it is your own fault because you've taken a risk by taking on something that you maybe shouldn't have fought until you'd leveled up a bit more. So.
Because Etrian Odyssey is a lot like that, but it's like a first-person view, isn't it? Like.
Well, what I really like about Etrian Odyssey is the map-making aspect. I don't know if you've seen that at all. But
yeah, it's very much like a pen and paper RPG, isn't it?
Yeah, you draw your own map on the bottom screen, and you can fill it with symbols and make markings for treasure here, enemy here, door here, etc. I mean I just love that, making the maps. It's really geeky, but there's no other game that does it, and that thing alone is incredible. Really, it's just so compelling.
Now, I'm hoping the 3DS has got a better resolution for the touch screen for its input than the old one, because I love the map making feature, but I just used to end up writing X treasure because it just wouldn't recognise anything small enough to get my hand right in.
It just looked read on there. Looked like a spider had crawled across the bottom screen normally.
Yeah. It was like it was the text equivalent of blue on brain training. Do you know what I mean? It was
exactly.
It was that all over again.
I mean, little callback to something you guys done way before I was involved here, but Nightmare, like the old TV show, that is the ideal thing for Etrian Odyssey. You've got one person with the map, one person with the top screen.
Yeah!
And, it's perfect.
Oh, that's spot on, man.
But you don't have a weird beardy bloke sitting in the corner, sort of barking at you, so...
You totally do! Look at me!
Oh, no! So what else have we got then? News-wise.
Well, the and finally stories we usually have?
Yes, mate.
This week there's 3 of them. I think it's because of everyone's waiting for the Sony announcement. So we've got 3 and finallys because everywhere's just trawling out these weird little stories. So
they're like buses, mate.
Aren't they just? So, especially on this show, as many and finally stories as you want. In fact, maybe we'll do an and finally special one day.
Just all of them, all put together in a row.
Yeah, all of the weird PR releases that don't make sense with anything, about these weird Japanese arcade machines and stuff like that. We'll do a whole special on them one day. But a man has played Cuba for over 80 hours to break a world record, which has been stood for 30 years already. Which, Cuba, there used to be this old granny that was really good at it. Is it that game where she was really, really, really good?
It is, yeah. I remember that from King of Kong. I believe she was in that, yeah.
Yeah. So he must have beaten, is it her record? Who knows? He must have gone better than her if she's been breaking records since, and the one that he's done is 30 years old. So maybe he's just done it to prove this grandma wrong. He's
just winning by endurance. He can just stay alive longer.
Exactly. It says for over 80 hours he's played it, but we don't know that it hasn't stopped yet.
He's still going.
Yeah, that's just when this story broke.
Exactly, he's still in the warehouse somewhere, just in the pitch black. Just the glow of a monitor in his face.
On all these drips and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Some crazy sci-fi film. The last 2 guys to try and beat it, actually, had to pull out due to fatigue, so that would be the only way to do it, I suppose, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's insane, man. I can't imagine doing anything for 80 hours, let alone stood up playing an arcade machine. That's just mental.
What about editing the podcast from all the ums and ahs? You could do that.
Having said that, that takes me about 80 hours. I'll give you that. That and the massive 80-hour pauses we have between sentences sometimes.
And that's another special we're going to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you like the 80-hour pauses, we're going to have we're going to join them all together into one special
massive pause.
Sorry for talking about special episodes, by the way. It's just that we're not far away from a certain birthday, which you'll find out more about in the next show. But yeah, so I wouldn't ever play an arcade game that long, would you?
No, mate.
No.
If you were going to, which one would it be?
It'd be the Star Wars arcade cabinet. It'd be the sit-down one, though. Definitely the sit-down one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good
just doing the trench run over and over and over and over again.
Also, it doesn't move, so it's not like Outrun or Space Harrier where you'd maybe get motion sickness after
No, exactly.
70 hours.
Though, having said that, those kind of vector graphics might be burned into my retinas by the end of it.
That'd be quite nice, surely. It would be like having lived in the 60s.
That really mad wireframe Death Star just on the back of my retinas for all time. That's all I can ever see.
The sound effects would just be running through your head over and over again.
Yeah. use the force.
Yeah, except a really bad digitised version, isn't it? It's funny because my memory of that game is that it has the most perfect speech ever. Do you know what I mean? When you walk into an arcade, it's like, oh my fucking god, Alec Guinness is stood in the corner of the arcade. And you listen back and it's like...
Yeah, exactly. It's like the same guy from Track and Field kind of did the voice for Star Wars. Yeah. On your mark.
Oh, we need to get Debbie Greenwood on the show one day.
Totally.
If anyone gets that reference, send it in on a postcard. Yeah, anyway.
Right,
so yeah, we've got even more of these weird little stories that have cropped up. Now, I'm going to give you two a choice of the last two. We can either end on a high note, or we can end on a cute little puppy story. Should we end on a high note? Cool.
Yeah, do it.
So there's been this cute little story that's been shared around everywhere. I've seen people that don't even play games sharing it on Facebook. And it is a really lovely, heartwarming story, but we've got a better one to finish. She's made her own mobile game. A 7-year-old girl has made a mobile game, which is pretty impressive, really.
Yeah, apparently it took her 8 weeks, so yeah, maybe Valve should get her on board for Half-Life 3.
Get her in training now. It's like, you know, like football clubs get like, you know, young apprentices in at like the age of like 8 and 9. Just bring them.
So
through.
for competitive parents, you need to now get your 6-year-old to make a game in 7 weeks. Do you know what I mean? Like, the game's been raised.
I can imagine like some pushy like parents coming in going, right, Tarquin, I need a runner clone and I need it done on the iPhone within a week. Go.
I know you did Portal 3 last week, but it took you 8 days. We really need to shave time off here.
Yes, we need more microtransactions. Come on, you just got to work faster.
But Daddy, I can't do the microtransactions. I need middleware.
The Joneses down the street's daughter made a Farmville clone in under 3 days. Come on.
So anyway, not to take anything away from her, this little girl who's made a game. So Zora Ball from Philadelphia has used the boot. Have you heard of Bootstrap? It's people who hack their iDevices and that kind of thing. Right. It's a programming language for mobile devices, and she's made her own little game. So well done, Zora, and sorry for being mean in your little story.
Yeah, exactly. This story reminds me of like when I was a kid and having my like, you know, Spectrum Plus 3 and sitting there typing in basic.
Yeah, trying to get those codes right, and they never. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. 20 go to 10 and all that.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just a new generation of it, like for iDevices.
But now they can touch the screen and use like point and click and everything.
No, it's great. I wish I'd have had that when I was little.
They don't know what they've got.
No, exactly. So what's the biggie for
okay, now, so if little Zora Ball was listening in for that last story, for a mention on the AI bots, which I'm sure she will be, do you know what I mean? I think she listens every week. But you're going to need to switch off now, because this is definitely NSFW.
Well, yeah, there's a game coming out in Japan called Custom Made 3, and it's got a rather unique peripheral that's getting packaged in with it. I'm not even sure if I'm able to describe how this peripheral is used, or if we're allowed to say. I don't want to get personal, but I've looked at a picture of this. It appears to be a fleshlight with sensors all around it and a little analog nub on the end.
Nub.
Yeah.
Nub is such the wrong word for this story. It's unreal.
So, I mean, I gather the game is on the screen. There are anime ladies with horns and bunny ears and tentacles and stuff, and they pose in positions, and you know, they make sexy noises. And I think it's supposed to.
How long before someone develops this into a body pillow that you then, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure people are already fitting them to those real dolls.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so wrong on so many different levels. It's untrue.
But apparently the sensors on the peripheral, they can tell your angle and what speed you're going, and like the characters on screen make different noises and movements depending on it. And
of course it's got gyroscopes in it. Well, it hasn't got gyroscopes in it nowadays. Why would you want to know? Why would you want to know what angle you're at? That's ridiculous.
Well, Ali, you're kind of our Japanese game expert, so when it comes to playtesting this, are you going to be like part of the beta team?
I've got my pre-order in, don't worry. Yeah. I just think, like, say in like 10 years' time, does this mean we'll have technology where, say, look, I don't want to, but could we have sex over Skype? Like, could we?
No, that would make the show a lot worse, mate. I'm sorry.
No. Oh dear.
Yeah, welcome to the new AI bots. We've already seen the future, and that was with the console ninjas, so that definitely ain't happening.
We're pushing the boundaries of our explicit tag. Right, so dodgy Japanese sex games aside, is that all the news, mate?
Do you mean I can't do those later in the show as well?
Yes.
Cool. In that case, I think we're done for this week.
Sweet. Right, should we get to a break then?
Let's have a break.
Freaky girls, yeah, I love them fresh and hot like a chocolate chip muffin. Worldwide stars in the wild and famous. Underground, East Coast can't contain us. Move that, yeah, I prove that. Hey, you go there, don't lose that. So I snack whack feels like Prozac. Just come to my place, let me diagnose that. Freaky girls, yeah, I love legit. Freaky girls, yeah, I love girls. I love freaky girls. I love legit girls. I love, yeah, legit.
Right, so we've polished off our traditional break time curly whirlies, and as we're a podcast, we'd better get into the what you've been playing section. So, what you've been playing, Ali?
Okay, well, it's not very exciting, but this week I've probably mainly been playing Sleeping Dogs.
Nice.
That's exciting, man. It's like a Hollywood blockbuster. Well, a Hong Kong Hollywood blockbuster.
Well, as I'm about to get to, it might look like a Hollywood blockbuster, but when you're playing it, it's not quite.
So you're not feeling it, then, mate?
Well, it's interesting. There are parts of it that
the most passive-aggressive review I've ever heard of it. Yes, it's interesting. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It tries to do things well.
It's the kind of thing my mum would say when I say, "Oh, Mum, I do a video games podcast. Have you listened to it?" She go, "Well, it was interesting."
Yeah, totally.
Well, yeah, I mean, it came out as part of PS Plus earlier this month, and got to say, while it's a game I probably would never have actually bought, I was quite excited about it coming. You know, I'd heard good things about it on other shows, and it's always nice to have a GTA-style game just to mess around in from time to time. It's comfort gaming, you know?
Yeah,
it's
totally.
good. But then, first things first, you load up the main menu, and there's just black screen, says Sleeping Dogs in the middle, looks quite nice, simplistic, and it says press start. And you press start,
Standard.
and nothing happens. Like, turns out you have to press X in order to actually get past that screen.
Oh, it's testing you, is it?
Exactly.
See, I remember when old games, it didn't matter. Like, you could press X on some games and it would start. But it's weird that they've, like, enforced it. Like, some bizarre rule.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, nowadays they just, like, have press start and then they just put both inputs in.
Yeah.
But to actually switch it and, you know, like, try and fool you with it.
Like, is there anyone who's just bought their PS3? This is the first game they've got. They're like, oh, it's broken. It's not working. Come on.
Get back to the shop.
Yeah. But anyway, get the setting out the way first. Because, you know, people love graphics. So it's set in Hong Kong.
Yeah, so how did you find Hong Kong then?
Well, I've never been to Hong Kong, but it looks
It was right there when I loaded it.
Yeah, exactly. It looks nice, sounds nice, in terms of people chatting and stuff. Thing is, the graphics are really beautiful. One of the best looking sort of open world big city games that I've seen anyway this generation. So there's a positive, you know, well done United Front Games, you've made a world. But now we've got to talk about the different things that actually make up the game, okay?
Because making a world isn't enough for you, Ali.
Well, not anymore, is it? I mean, everything's got an open world, and they're all brilliant, aren't they? I mean, it seems like if you make an open world nowadays, it's just going to be good, isn't it? People know how to make cities in countryside.
Yeah, that is a really fair point. Like, city's been done now, and
so,
done well. So yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's cool. I mean, definitely, just visually, it's as good a Hong Kong as Liberty City is a New York. You know, it's certainly up there.
Yeah, totally.
But is it Shenmue 2? Do you know what I mean? That's got Hong Kong. I bet the colours aren't as bright in Sleeping Dogs.
Wow, you can always change the brightness.
Just the colour setting on your TV.
Yeah.
But no, right. So when it comes to the traversal of the world, obviously it controls how you'd expect. You run around. But it's taken a little idea from Assassin's Creed, where if you hold down a button, your character will just automatically jump over stuff.
Yeah.
And the world has clearly not been designed with this in mind whatsoever, apart from the rare set piece where you have to do it.
Yeah, where you're careening through a warehouse or something.
Exactly. It just it gets in the way more than anything. It doesn't make sense. I don't know if it was an idea that they added at the last minute or what, if it's just bad design. I don't know. Who am I to say?
So you weren't feeling it then?
Yeah, and like no one. Yeah, you know these games, like you run up to a car, you press a button, and like you'll get into the car.
Yeah.
And generally, you can be at any range, and you just well, not any range. Can't be 100
You've got to
feet
be
away.
within its sphere of
Yeah.
Unless you're playing that Last Driver game, in which case you can be like in another car, like a mile down the road.
In this, you literally have to be about a centimetre away from the car door, or else just nothing happens whatsoever. You can't chase a car down and grab it or anything. You've got to be right next to the door.
So I'm hearing like, basically you've got like lots of little niggles and you know, gripes with, you know, just general things in the game. But how did you find the game overall as a presentation, as a, you know, like mission structure and kind of stuff you're doing in game to mission to mission?
Well, it's the same as any other open world game, really. Don't mean to sound damning, but I mean it's good. It works.
So you found it similar to me, that it doesn't necessarily do anything remarkable, but you know, it adds a few nice little bits to open world games that you hope other open world games would then build upon later on and kind of, you know.
Well, I think that before the game came out, there was a lot made about how you're playing a character who's a cop, but he's undercover. So you do missions for the cops, then you do mission for the gangsters. But it doesn't. I mean, you may as well not be doing that. You know, it's just mission to mission.
You don't feel that duality, do you? You know, like you have the two different like XP bars going up, but I never felt like strongly either way to feel one or the other. It was just more, right, well, I'll do enough to unlock this flying kick or whatever. You know, I never felt strongly that I was like having to lean one way or having to balance them. It was just like, right, yeah, this is just another unlock system.
Is it that you can't, or that you chose not to? Like,
no,
could you be a total evil bastard if you wanted to?
Oh, yeah,
there's
you
just
could.
no sort of incentive to do
I
so.
don't think the story, I didn't get far enough in the story to really kind of see that play out to its fullest, but I think that they have a certain story they want to tell, and that those bars don't really affect too much where it goes.
They don't affect the story whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just a case of getting XP. So, like when you do a triad mission, you're expected to sort of be as good as you can, like kill as few civilians as possible. And when you're doing a cop mission, it's the same, really.
Yeah. But it's one of those ones where it's not like Mass Effect where you're doing Paragon or Renegade, and it kind of affects, you know, how you are as a character.
But you said earlier, like, you were wanting to level up to unlock the flying kick, but there's no point in the flying kick because you can just get through the whole game just tapping square and like occasionally pressing triangle. Like, they've got all these moves which really aren't needed. I mean, it's taken the combat from the recent Batman games, which a lot of people love. I love too. Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's perfect. But it's not as fluid. Sometimes you press a button and your guy doesn't even react to the attack that's coming his way. People say obviously he's not Batman, but it's a game. You know, if it fundamentally doesn't work sometimes, then...
Yeah, you know, it's a game, so you're expecting a digital input on your pad to be replicated immediately on the screen, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But people seem to say, oh yeah, but it's nearly as good as Arkham Asylum was, and it's like, but that's like a 3-year-old game now. Like, it's not a bullet point for the back of the box. Combat's nearly as good.
Not as good as a 3-year-old game. Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is with Arkham Asylum though is that that has a lot more atmosphere and a lot better sort of sense of world.
Yeah.
Sense of you in the world. You know, there's always oppression from all around you.
I'm not saying Hong Kong's not a place, but Arkham Asylum is definitely a place.
It feels like a solid environment, whereas...
Like Rapture. Isn't it weird that these fake places can be more real than places modelled on cities? Maybe it's because our expectations of the real worlds are that they should be, like, more real than real, or that they're just not as interesting to explore as these, like, fake places.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, anyway, sorry for that tangent. So listeners may know that I was quite interested in this game, and I've asked Chazzy this same question, like, but would you recommend it as someone who... I'm interested in games set in the East, because they're usually made in the East, but is this another Jade Empire where it's a sort of token gesture that it's set in the East, and it's just another Western game, another Western open world game? Would you recommend it, or...?
Well, I can recommend picking up the game for anyone who wants something to do if they see it for a tenner or less, or they have PS Plus. But it's not going to be worth picking up for you if you're looking for an authentic Eastern setting. Like another series of games that I like are the Yakuza franchise, and they really do make a beautiful, perfect, real, living, breathing Tokyo in there.
Yeah.
This Hong Kong is just, yeah. I mean, it looks nice, it sort of sounds nice, but everyone speaks in these perfect American accents, and then you get up to a prostitute, and suddenly she's like... No, $5, you know, I love you long time and all that. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's
like
totally forced.
Like a fake experience. It's like the Disney World, like Epcot, where you go to like China and then you go to France, and it's just this little part of America that they've called China.
Crazy.
But even the radio stations just have no atmosphere at all. Like, it's Kerrang FM is one of the radio stations. I don't know if they really listen to Kerrang in Hong Kong. I mean, maybe some people do, but...
See, that's one of the things that Chazzy said, was that the radio stations seem like there's none of the jokes that you get in GTA. Is that right?
Yeah,
like...
it's just an announcer saying, that was such and such a song, and now here's Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Like, and that's
just
it.
Incredibly dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No jokes, no humour, no adverts, just song after song.
It's funny that you mentioned Yakuza 2, actually, man, because I've just got myself... drum roll, a new PC.
Yay!
Yay! So no more records that suddenly, like when I'm exporting it, the laptop dies, and we have to use a backup recording from like the archives. The little the thing that Chazzy's got running, like an 8-reel thing in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my 8 track. Yeah.
And so I've just been testing out what the new PC can do. Do you know how you when it's the first week of a new computer, you just install loads of stuff and you just try it out and
put stuff on it and just put it all to ultra and see what it does.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been doing that. The first thing I did it with is my first ever MMO, and I had to go with the obligatory World of Warcraft for the first one.
You've got to know the baseline before you can judge any other MMO, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
But then isn't the risk that you start World of Warcraft and just never play any other MMO because you never play anything else?
That's always been why I've never played it before. But I think now that there's such a breadth of choice, what I'm going to do is just try the free-to-play for a couple of hours on each of them and see if any of them have that kick up the arse that you want.
Yeah.
From an MMO, do you know what I mean?
Nice, yeah.
Well, I assume that's what you'd want anyway, and I didn't get it from World of Warcraft. I assume that some have this addiction that you get within the first half an hour, and I played it for maybe 40 minutes or so, and I was just in this one section killing some rats, basically. Do you know what I mean? It was a rats in the cellar type.
It's a weird one because that whole I don't know sort of first 10 levels is just tutorials and stuff, and you don't really not until you get to the first major city and you see people running about and kind of you start interacting with vendors and the auction house, and that you actually get a really full sense of the world. But it definitely is a bit of a Stockholm syndrome thing of the longer you've been there in that world, just grinding away, the sort of more you start to love it.
Yeah, the more you accept what it's...
Yeah, they accept what it's given to you and its limitations, and you look past them and stuff. So, yeah, sort of dipping into it, it's weird. It's kind of... You're sort of almost viewing it from the outside, sort of pressed up against the window
Yeah, I totally get that. But I've played so many single player games that ape MMO sort of language.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They all have pretty much the same structure if you play a Western RPG nowadays. And I think there must be, what I'm hoping is that there's one that's newer that doesn't have that same having to go through that boring tutorial that assumes that you know how it works. I
don't think any MMO is going to do that, just because I think they'll always be on the lookout for new gamers. But I think that the amount of levels it takes to get through it may be less. Something like a Guild Wars, or a Terra, might be the kind of thing you're looking for. You know, something that's a little bit more flashy, a little bit more kind of edgy. Yeah, just with a bit better progression.
Yeah, you're right. And I'm wondering if, probably not the free-to-play option is a good way, but with Star Wars: The Old Republic. I asked you which I should go for because I downloaded the sort of like install package for both that and World of Warcraft. And I said to you, which one should I do first? And you were like, well, you've got to know, like you say, you've got to know the classic, the iconic game before you move on.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. It's like kind of you need to know Super Mario, Super Mario Brothers before you can play Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those situations.
And it's probably quite a nice game to have played first because I know the graphics are kind of nothing special, but having not seen a new PC in like 10 years, like one that can run good games anyway, it was quite a shock as to how beautiful it looked in 1080p running on Ultra and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it felt really like a...
So you're gaining from like years and years of like updates and patches and kind of, like Burning Crusade and then like Lich King and now like Pandaria, and they've always just incrementally nudged the graphics up and up and up. So what you're seeing isn't necessarily what someone who started off in that zone
of course, I totally get that.
You're sort of coming into it at the best it's ever looked, definitely.
And it does look beautiful.
Oh yeah.
That was quite a shock as something that I didn't expect it to be quite that good looking, being like the best looking game I've ever seen until that point. Do you know what I mean? Like other than on like 1080p videos of like Unreal Engine 4 demos and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
tech demos.
Wow, that's literally a beautiful thing happening there on that screen.
Excellent.
But then I got kind of lost in the world of emulators, as I do, and I found one that can run my old PS2 discs. But it can run them at like 3 times the original resolution and then scale it back down to 1080p.
Nice.
So they look stunning. So even though I've got like quite a lot of PC games that I could be playing, like I went and got a bundle of cheap games basically from Game. You know where you get like the 3 for tenner PC games. I got 2 lots of that, plus the bloke threw in Tomb Raiders 1 to 4. But I've got like Battlefield Bad Company 2 and Alice Madness Returns that I've wanted to play for ages. But the PS2 emulator is so good that that's kind of all I've done so far.
Superb.
So yeah, if I cracked open my copy of Persona 3, do you know what I mean? I've had it there for ages, but I didn't want to like play it on an old SD TV.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to like. It would have been a hassle to set up all of that stuff. And if I play it through an HD monitor, it looks horrible, the original PlayStation 2. So I've just sat on it, and then I finally like cracked it open, put it in the PC, and I've only played the first little bit because I know it's just going to like suck me in, and I'm going to get lost in this Japanese madness. And I just wanted to like see what other games look like as well. But it's just really interesting to have this. It's like a PlayStation from space. It's like,
it's weird. It's like seeing the screenshots you've sent me, and like it's like, no, that's not on a PS2. That's got to be like some kind of PC remake. And you're like, no, that's just where the texture work was so good that now it can actually display it and show it off so well. And it's like
it makes sense of all these HD remakes, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Like you can see that like it's not actually that difficult a process for them to do. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, like I can imagine there's a little bit of like texture work, like to tickle up a few like odd bits here and there, and go in and.
And to be fair, this PC is like more powerful than the PlayStation 3 or 360, where you'd get the HD remakes anyway. So it's obviously going to have more power to make it look nicer, I suppose. But...
Yeah, exactly. But it sort of bodes well for the future, though.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that you can actually use your own discs means that it's like you've got a laptop that can play like your PlayStation 2 games, which is probably like somewhere close to my dream come true. Do you know what I mean? So, but if anyone's got any recommendations for any like free PC indie games, I've already tried some of the big ones from last year. Nitronic Rush is superb. If you haven't got that, do it. It's like a sort of Xbox Live arcade quality game by DigiPen.
Yeah, you sent this to me, and it was like kind of Mario Kart meets Tron, and like the new Mario Kart 7, and it's kind of, yes, it's insane. Just like you're driving it along, and you think, oh, this isn't very special, and the handling's a bit rubbish, and then it starts doing stuff, and it's like, wow. Actually,
also, the handling's rubbish until you use that right stick.
Yeah, exactly.
To,
you get,
it's
like,
a bit like using
steering.
the air brakes. Yeah, like using the air brakes in Wipeout.
Yeah, I mean,
it was like Burnout Res, but Mario Kart Tron is almost the same thing. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's definitely a game in there that needs sort of polishing out of the like rough diamond. Definitely.
Yeah, and for a freebie, you've got like a full-on story mode. Then you've got arcade. There's a lot to it. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's my recommendation to people listening. And if you've got a recommendation of something that I should play that's a free PC indie game, then yeah, let us know.
Sweet.
Yeah, how about you, man? What have you been playing?
Me, as I said last week, I have been lost in the world of Ni no Kuni, mate. It's been it's been kind of, I've been hankering after a JRPG now for quite a while. Just needed that sort of, I don't know, like you were saying earlier, Ali, like that comfort gaming thing of just being able to sit down and sort of disengage my brain and just go for a nice story, and you know,
sort of game you can play while looking at your phone. And
yeah, sort of, and kind of like have that happy blue sky and smiling, you know, enemies smiling at you and jiggling about, and it's all everything's wonderful. So yeah, and this game is just that with but bucket loads of it. You know, it's just joyous and full of, like, the word I keep hearing every bloody podcast is whimsy, and it's like but yeah, and it's like I've been trying to find different words, and it's like, yeah, it's just full of the fucking stuff. It's like, it's just lovely, absolutely lovely. It's just the best way I can say it is it is kind of a love letter to the art form of a JRPG. It just does everything that you would expect that a JRPG would do, but kind of just then stands on the shoulders of giants and just pushes it on another notch forward for the next like developer to take on. You know, it's just one of those games, you know, it just elevates everything up that one level more, but without changing too much, you know. But yeah, just no, it's brilliant. I mean, I can go through the whole story and stuff, but yeah, it's one of those games where I've sunk 25 hours into it already, and like I haven't even really scratched the surface of what's going on. I mean, I am aware that I'm sitting here trying to tell like two RPG like nutcases what this RPG is like, and like it's kind of like a monkey trying to describe thermodynamics to someone at NASA. So, like,
yeah, that's what I'm curious about. I mean, I know you don't really play much JRPGs, so how are you finding it difficulty-wise? I mean, is it okay, or?
I tell you what I found is it's very much like I've come in from playing stuff like Dark Souls and Fallout 3 and Mass Effect. And I'm finding stuff that obviously they've nicked from traditional RPGs, like the whole getting into an area and just being like overwhelmed in combat, and then realising that that's not an area I can go into yet because it's, you know, I'm just not high enough level, so then I have to go away somewhere else and then grind up to be more powerful, to then crack that area, to then go through it.
The RPG equivalent of like a no entry sign. Yeah,
totally. And you know, that's been frustrating because it kind of kills the pace of the game. You know, you like with me, I mean, admittedly at the start it does say have it on easy and you can just go through the story, or go through on normal and it will be more of a challenge. So, you know, I've gone through it on normal and I'm hitting these brick walls. Now, obviously, I'm assuming that a big RPG fan like kind of expects those things, whereas I'm not expecting that so much. So maybe that's just more of a personal taste thing.
Well, I know when I hit those walls, I sort of see it as a challenge. I think, right, I'm going to get in there eventually. You know, I'm going to go away, then I'll come back, and I want to explore that area.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all in there. I mean, I'll admit, I got to a stage where I got quite a way into it. I'm probably about 18 hours in, and then went, do you know what, I'm going to knock this down too easy, because I do want to see the game, and I do want to experience it, and I feel like I've experienced enough of that kind of grind, but I don't think I've got the 50, 60 hours to kind of crash into it, to just keep going through it, you know, going back to just grind a character out. So yeah, knocked it down too easy, and now I'm having such a great time with it because I can get I can have fun getting into this whole sort of Pokemon element of, you get like, without trying to give too much of the story away, like, you're a young boy, blah blah blah, stuff happens, and you're transported to this magical world where you can have these characters called familiars, which are essentially Pokemon, and you use them to fight with in battle. So you get 3 of those, and they level up as you level up. So the whole idea of the game is to basically be going through trapping these animals and then training them up and then trying to make them the best that you can physically be, so you can get better and better at fighting. And it's like, I've gone down the rabbit hole of, you know, like, looking into which ones are the best and which ones do this and which ones, you know, fight against, like, best for fighting against robots, and best for fighting against, like, woodland characters and all that kind of stuff. And
which one looks the silliest?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've developed my own little meta game as well, with like just renaming the characters. You know, like in XCOM, where like you'd name all your characters after your mates, and then see how quickly you could get them killed or not get them killed. Right, it's the same sort of thing in this, but I'm like, in one of the first areas, I picked up this skeleton called a Bonehead, and obviously, first thing you do is you call, after Shadows of the Damned, you call it a boner. So you get into combat and you just unleash your boner onto the waiting enemies. Which, you know, childish, I know, but it keeps me entertained for like God knows how many hours. But then, like, I started going, right, well, let's get a bit more creative with this. So then I picked up, like, there's a character called a Clinky Clank, or Clinkety Clank, and so obviously called him Clank, and I thought, well, I've got Clank, I've got to have Ratchet now. So then I went off and found a character that was most like Ratchet, and then so now I've got Ratchet and Clank in my team. And then so my favourite one is this like wild boar character called a Crashing Boar, and I thought, well, I've got to name it Clarkson, really. So, and that's it now. I'm just going through, just naming everything with just the most creative name I can think of, just to keep myself entertained. But
I wonder if Studio Ghibli keep an eye, like they've got some server like keeping all the names that people call the characters, and they're like, oh, Clarkson.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder what that's about. Exactly. But I've been surprised though with the story that it all seems like kind of sugar coated and candy like on the surface, but if you actually look at it, it's quite dark, and it's quite like, you know, like when you watch a Studio Ghibli film, that it's, you know, it's slightly unsettling. In
like
places.
there's deep undertones, and there's a moral at the end.
But like, there's these whole themes of like depression and like dealing with loss and grief, and like you're like, you've got these people that are kind of taken over by these dark clouds called nightmares, and you're having to bring them out of their nightmare with your magic and like defeating their demons for them, so that they can, you know, this dark cloud can lift off them and stuff. And it's it's quite dark. Like, there's some real dark, cynical stuff in there. Like, if you're looking for it, but it's brilliant. It's like I'm loving the kind of multi-layered nature of it.
You're really selling it to me. I know, after looking at it a little bit and hearing you talk about it, I really want it now. But something I've heard is that the game's almost front-loaded a bit with the cutscenes and the voice acting and stuff. Like,
yeah, very much so. I mean, the first 6 hours were like, Dan will tell you, like, all I was doing was like, I'll just be on text message going, Dan, this is amazing. Oh my god, the art style's like, you know, it's toon shaded.
It's all happening. It's the best game ever.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like, oh, this is brilliant. And that was that first 6 hours where it's front-loaded, and then you sort of hit that. Okay, now you're in an RPG. And now you're into the grind, and now you're into the going to talk to the character that wants to send you all the way across the world to then pick up a thing to come all the way back, you know. And it's kind of, right, okay, there's a real saggy middle in this, but then like interspersed with a few nice little moments thrown in here and there. I mean, it's a bit weird sometimes that in the storytelling, it's like sometimes it's partly voiced in engine. Sometimes it's full animation, like fully voiced, and then sometimes it's no voice but in engine. But that could be, you could have all 3 of those within one scene, and it feels really jarring sometimes. And you're sort of like, oh, this is a bit weird. Like, why have you decided to fully animate this one, but then go to engine for this bit to then and voice for this bit, but then just take the voice away halfway through everyone having a chat backwards and forwards. It seems a bit weird, but
now you say it, it seems like that. I think that happens in probably like all level 5 games, but again, Stockholm syndrome that Ali and I are like used to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like what level 5 do, and I think they always top load their games a bit. But I think it's better that they do that than it just be average all the way across. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather have a great beginning and then like a good end and maybe a saggy middle than it just be saggy all the way along and like no good beginning or end.
That's the thing, they're trying to hook people like me who don't really play these but have heard so much about them. So if you can hook someone for 6 hours, they'll go away and say this is brilliant, you know, and they'll always have fond memories of it. So, but yeah, it just, the thing is though, playing it just makes me want a Dragon Quest game even more. And then I went and did a little bit of research and then realised like Dragon Quest X is out on the Wii U, or it's coming out soon, and that's like an MMORPG. So I'm really interested to see what that's all about now, and you know I mean, obviously different developers, not level 5, but yeah, just those little sort of hints of Dragon Quest that are obviously still in this game from level 5, and it's like, well, yeah, that's really got me sort of going now. So yeah, just like I said, I'm absolutely loving it, and now I've sort of got 25 hours in, and I'm kind of like, right, I've realised that I've now got to develop a second generation of my like Pokemon characters, so I can now rotate in and out and, you know, get a really good balance. So I'm getting in. I've gone down a massive rabbit hole with the game.
You've gone into one of like level 5's weird systems that needn't be in the game, that just happens to be thrown in. Nice.
It's kind of reminding me of that conversation we had last week where we were saying it's like a system on a system on a system.
Yeah.
And you know, like, because you can feed the animals food that then up their stats, and it's like, oh my god. You know, like, but yeah, no, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it, and I think this is going to be a game that I'm going to. I think it's just going to be permanently in my PS3 for like years and years and years. I'm going to be coming back and back and back to. Definitely.
A true classic.
Yes, mate.
Don't often get them, do you?
No, mate. No, mate. They are few and far between, but yeah, it's one of those ones where I hold this in the same regard as Wind Waker, for different reasons, but
strong words.
It's not as good as Wind Waker, but it's in that ballpark where it's just done something for me that kind of
it flips some little magic switch.
Yeah, it's done something. Yeah, it's done something for me where I wanted a certain thing and it's just hit that on the head. So yeah, spot on for me. Absolutely loving it.
Excellent.
So yeah, that's about it, mate. So are we all done?
I reckon we are. Shall we take a break?
So break.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you this special bulletin. Shocking evidence has come to light, seemingly showing that horses have been masquerading as cows in Farmville. The popular Facebook game has been rocked by these revelations, with many parents angry that their children have been conned into breeding horses instead of cows.
It's a pure blatant scam, man, that's what it is. See, my wee Katie's been selling her broon coos in the game for 15 bloody gold coins when she should have been selling them as broon horses for 120. Single our family and awful imaginary money. I'll see yous in imaginary court.
Besides the obvious financial concerns, some parents have voiced fears over possible health risks.
Well, our Milo is allergic to horsehair. We never allowed him to buy horses in the game for fear of exacerbating the condition, but we assumed the cows were fine, as any parent would. No wonder he's been so wheezy these past months, poor little fellow.
We invited the developer Zynga along for an interview, but they declined, instead giving us this brief statement.
Zynga prides itself on the trust we have with our customers and the quality of products we offer. However, it appears that some of the development work for the cows in Farmville may have been outsourced to a third-party Romanian studio. We thank you for your interest in Zynga products. This is just a short demo of the full statement. To listen to it in its entirety, please enter your credit card details, blood type, mother's maiden name, and purchase 1,000 Zynga coins.
An offer which we declined. We did, however, contact the Romanian developer in question. We were simply following the orders provided to us by Zynga. They requested us to create 3 million elaborate cow pattern coats in varying horse sizes, from 12 hands all the way up to 22. I distinctly remember the job. We'd coded the entirety of Alien's Colonial Marines on the Monday morning, then spent the rest of the week making the coats. Meanwhile, similar allegations are spreading to other developers in the industry. On last night's Newsnight, legendary games designer Peter Molyneux was forced to defend himself against Jeremy Paxman and some damning historic accusations.
So, to get this straight, Mr. Molyneux, you're telling me that in your game Black and White, the cow god creature was made up of exactly the same type of graphical geometry as the horse god creature?
Well, yes, Jeremy, that's the way games work. Polygons are polygons. There's no difference between horse polygons and cow polygons.
Yes, that's what some of the supermarkets said about their meat. So what you're really saying is that your company, sourced these generic polygons and simply added a cow texture to dupe the public. That's what this comes down to, isn't it, Mr. Molyneux?
This is unfair. I mean, even the humans in the game and the very world itself were made up of the same basic graphical building blocks.
Oh great, humans too now. So you're trying to turn our youth to cannibalism, are you?
Jeremy, that's just ridiculous.
Are you?
You seem to lack a basic grasp of how video games work.
Will you or will you not answer the question, Mr. Molyneux?
Jeremy, with all due respect, these allegations are over 10 years old and...
And that makes it okay, does it?
Jeremy, if you could be so kind as to let me finish...
Let you finish what? Your 18-inch pizza Molyneux with a stuffed crust full of broken promises, topped with pony pepperoni?
This is all becoming very...
And lie cheese?
With all due respect, Jeremy, I may be guilty of many things, but I wouldn't put Chinese fruit on a pizza.
Not lie cheese the fruit, you blithering ninny. Lie cheese! Cheese made of your lies!
The game was made over a decade ago, and I no longer even work at Lionhead Studios.
Yes, that's if it even was a lion's head. I bet you just took a horse's head, added some pipe cleaner whiskers and painted it yellow.
Oh, for goodness sake, Jeremy.
Anyway, just time for a quick look at tomorrow's headlines. The Times, Cameron pledges Shenmue 3 if given second term. The Express, Randy Pitchford on the run after killing Jim Sterling. No idea who they are. And The Sun, Freddy Star ate my PlayStation 4. That's all from Newsnight. We'll be here the same time tomorrow. Join us. Good night.
And we're back, and we've got the second half of the AI Bots Hall of Fame of Level 5. Now, listeners are probably thinking we've got like some bizarre love affair going on with this development team, like from like Nino Cooney talk and
Yes.
all sorts. But it's only that they've had like a pretty long career, so we thought we'd do it in two halves. Now, as we learned last week, they had like quite a tight working relationship with Sony. Like Sony had helped them get off the ground basically with their PlayStation 2 license. But then you remember when the DS came out and it suddenly like took the world by storm?
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
And we'd had by that point, I think, Brain Age or Brain Training, whichever region you live in, that had come out. And again, it had been an extraordinary success. It had brought people on board that maybe hadn't played consoles before. Do you know what I mean? That kind of grey gamer market.
Yeah. And Nicole Kidman doing the advertising can't have hurt it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Akihiro Hino of Level 5, when he was a kid, had played these books that were a counterpart of the Brain Age series. They're called the Head Gymnastics books. They're by Professor Akira Tago of Chiba University. And they brought Professor Tago on board to try and help them make this puzzle game, which ended up being the first Professor Layton. Have you guys played any of the series?
I've played the first one until the point where I realised I was an idiot, and then stopped doing it because I couldn't.
And I've got the same story, pretty much. Although I wouldn't say it was because I was an idiot. It's more that I noticed every question was a trick question. So you were supposed to get it wrong, really.
Yeah,
initially,
completely.
anyway.
They're clever, stupid puzzles. If that doesn't sound silly, like if you try and work out all the maths of it, you know you've gone wrong somewhere.
Yeah. It's weird, like thinking back on the kind of Layton games that at the time they were quite revolutionary and sort of changed how like puzzle games were seen and played. You know, it's like looking back now, like everything's like a Layton puzzle or you know something like that. It's sort of kind of made crossword puzzly stuff like cool and hip again.
Like people use the word Layton-esque to describe lots of other games nowadays. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like saying Hoover.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Well, could the revival of this whole point-and-click genre even go back to, say, the beginning of Professor Layton? Because there's not much difference there.
No, I'd say that and Phoenix Wright are probably quite responsible for that.
Yeah.
Oh, another superb series. We've got this list of things to go on the Hall of Fame, and can we put like the Phoenix Wright series on there, or the people that did that or something? Anyway, I'll stop talking shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a real charm to the Layton games, do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that casual gamers, as you say, would we call them casual gamers? I don't know. But it seemed to capture a market that I've never really seen before. Like supermarkets are covered in Professor Layton like display stands and stuff.
Yeah. It like you say, it really did capitalise on that whole brain training kind of wave that people were trying to, you know, use their DS to kind of make themselves more intelligent somehow, and then having a game that was kind of like a fun little cartoon that you were watching, and you know, kind of an interesting puzzle detective series as well. Yeah, it sort of really appealed to the mainstream, you know, for whatever reason.
Also, that art style's gorgeous, man.
Oh, it is lovely. But it's that sort of the Asian take on on Europe.
Yeah, it's like it reminds me of like Hungarian animation or something. Do you know what I mean? Or a lot of people compare it to. There's a guy called Sylvain Chomet, a French director, and he's got an animated film called The Triplets of Belleville. Over here, it's called Belleville Rendezvous. It reminds. Well, I've seen a lot of people say it reminds them of that, and it does to me too. But the animated sequences are actually by a Japanese studio, so as you say, it's like almost a pastiche of European animation. Also, I think you'll find that you've spotted that there's also pastiches in their soundtracks. There'll be like a pastiche of like Star Wars music or Final Fantasy music to let you know what that type of area of the game is supposed to be. I suppose they're cues that we've learned over the years. That
it's a very Level 5 thing. Like I was saying to you. Sort of in the breaks that like in Ni no Kuni they have in Hamlin, some of the music is like is more like a sort of riffs on Star Wars themes and stuff.
Yeah,
where like there are characters in there like that are dressed like little sort of what they call like little Darth Vaders.
Yeah.
And so that they've got these cues of Star Wars and stuff going on, and they sort of do that all the way through all their different types of games by the looks of it. Yeah,
kind of like almost a joke. Do you know what I mean? It's like a Again, it comes like back to whimsy.
like a little nod and a wink, you know.
Yeah.
If you know the reference, then it'll bring a little smile to your face.
And again, the game's changed the way that Nintendo kind of marketed things here in Britain. Do you know what I mean? Like the Wii campaign followed, and it had this sort of the family approach, which I don't think had been sort of sold before. And I think it all comes into that, isn't it? Like Mum plays Layton, the kids play Mario Kart, and
and not only that, they've also turned it into like a feature film as well. You know, this Professor Layton and the Eternal Diva.
Yep, and there's a second film they're currently making, so obviously they found another way to milk Professor Layton. Yeah, Do you reckon they keep him locked up and him and the little kid are like in this like Nintendo dungeon being prodded with a fork through?
Just trying to work out how to get out in really elaborate puzzles.
Yeah, well in real life they're not actually very good at it, do you know what I mean?
But Professor, maybe we take the spoon and just chisel out the mortar from the bricks.
That'll take us weeks, child.
What we need to do is an incredibly convoluted puzzle.
Something to do with mice and keys. I'm
Yeah,
sure it'll
exactly.
have something to do with that.
Exactly. Go proper 80s old school text adventure.
Yeah.
6 that looks like a 9. Yeah. It's always that.
So yeah, the guy who inspired this Professor Tago, he actually created 30 new puzzles for the game that you obviously couldn't have done with a book that needed the DS. Like ideas that maybe I don't know if he'd thought of them before, like, oh, if there was a touch screen, we could do this. But yeah, he put in like new versions of his puzzles. And then weirdly, 2 years later, Level 5 produced DS versions of his original books, which are obviously the same puzzles that are in Professor Layton anyway, just kind of with different wallpaper. It's quite weird.
Odd.
Yeah. But yeah, that game saw a change in their focus. They like the PS2 was dying out, and then a lot of their games since have been on the DS market. Now, while obviously the Layton games have kept them busy for like 6 years, as we've said, there's been loads of them. They had a new IP in 2008 called Inazuma 11. Have you guys heard of that?
I've played it, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned it earlier. It's coming out on the 3DS soon, right?
Yes, and it's one of the reasons why I might be interested in picking one up. It's really good JRPG, essentially. It's a Pokemon, I don't want to say rip-off. I think I said that earlier again with Sleeping Dogs. It's not. It's more a pastiche. It's just Pokemon with footballers, really. And instead of having battles, you play, not quite turn-based, but sort of little matches, sensible soccer, which relies on stats.
Do you play the whole team, or do you just play the goalkeeper? Because I know in the RPG bit, you're a goalkeeper, is that right?
Indeed, yeah. When you're just running around, say you're, going around the world as the Ash-type character, you just control that one guy. But in the games, you control all the players. One at a time, but, any player at that time.
Because I know it really captured, like, I know a lot of gamers thought it was like this cult thing that we hadn't had from Japan before when it released on the DS over here. But I remember my cousins' kids were playing it and they were really into it in the playground and stuff like that. So it's obviously
maybe it's one of those ones that in a few years from now, like people are going to be revering it as kind of like a hidden classic.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I said it was Pokemon with footballers, there's like 150 Pokemon in each game, whereas in this there's literally a good 1,000 or so footballers that you can choose from, just going around the world talking to them, trying to get them to join your team. Pretty much any NPC can join your team.
I mean, isn't that just what Football Manager is, though? Essentially. Like, just one massive RPG.
Yeah, but it doesn't have nice cartoony graphics, and and
it's got nicely rendered donkey jackets.
Donkey jackets? Don't you mean, like, sheepskins, mate?
Yeah, I suppose so. I'm thinking of, like, Dustman Simulator, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anyway,
yeah. This game, like again, like Layton, has spawned loads of games. There's been 7 of them, including 2 on the Wii that have been like spin-offs. Inazuma 11 Strikers, and they've had an arcade machine. Which, how do you do an RPG as an arcade machine? Is it one of those where you put a card in? I don't know, but yeah, and they've had an anime and a manga, and even like again, aping Pokemon, a collectible card game. But sadly, again, like, I think it's kind of overlooked that it's this huge success on like the playground level, a bit like Garbage Pail Kids, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? Where like, can you like trade your footballers with your mates and that kind of thing?
You can, yeah. I mean, it's for kids and adults alike, isn't it? It's simple enough for kids to enjoy, but at the same time, if you like JRPGs, you can really get absorbed, and there's enough to keep you interested as an adult.
Also, I never realised there was actually a playable football game in there. I thought that was like a turn-based Pokemon thing. So it's interesting that it is like a sort of little sensible soccer type.
Yeah, it's very similar to the way that Blitzball in Final Fantasy X works, actually. I don't know if you played much of that.
Yeah, where you sort of move around you can move around, but it's turn-based.
Yeah, and then you'll press a button to, rather than pressing, say, X to pass, you'll press a button which will open up a menu where you select pass.
Oh, I get you.
And then, obviously, the success of the pass depends on your character's stats or the stats of the opposition who might be blocking it.
Inazuma 11, making football slightly more complicated.
But like as we've seen, Level 5 like to make everything slightly more complicated. That should be their
exactly.
company. I bet it is. It's their company-like motto. Making
Yeah,
things slightly
is
more
the-
complicated since 1999.
Yeah. Is it natural? Make it more complicated.
They made their business more complicated as well next, because they had a bit of controversy. We go back to the Dragon Quest series for a bit. Now, this is a game that Chazzy's played, I know, but
Yes.
it mirrors the situation with Square and Final Fantasy. Enix had jumped ship to Sony following the Super NES era. They'd gone over to PlayStation because they had CD technology, they could make the games bigger, put in all the cutscenes and stuff, which really annoyed Nintendo at the time. Like, there was big beef going on. But with the success of the DS, Enix said they were going to, well, Square Enix said they were going to bring Dragon Quest IX to the DS, which,
Yes.
like, it was a bit of a shock for fanboys at the time. Like, it was going to be a handheld, it was going to be multiplayer. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, just
go for
after how good Dragon Quest VIII was, people were maybe hoping they would be on 360 or PS3 and push the boundaries.
Yeah.
And they were taken by surprise when they thought, wait a minute, handheld, that's going backwards a bit, isn't it? Like, you know, for a full game in the series rather than a spin-off. But I think it's been proven that they were right to go back to the handheld, because that still stands as one of the best handheld JRPGs of all time, surely.
See, I've not played it, so I can be the one that knows nothing about it here. So you guys
fantastic.
like gush over it and tell me, like, why is this like the best handheld RPG?
Well, I'll tell you what, Ali, you start, mate, because you obviously know a bit more about RPGs than me, so you sort of set it up.
Well, actually my save on it corrupted after about 20 hours and I couldn't face going back. So maybe you've actually played it more than me. But it just, it just took all the little sort of annoyances that we've grown accustomed to and almost gotten used to from other RPGs and gets rid of them. It's incredibly simple. There's not a lot of skills to upgrade. And all the upgrades tend to come quite naturally. But you can customize your team in any way, like any class with any equipment.
So yeah, I mean, basically it's more of an MMO system where everyone has a job, you know, like whereas in Warcraft you'd have something like a paladin and a warrior and so on and so forth. You have like sort of the equivalents in this, and because it's got the local, 4-player co-op, you can really sort of mix and match the different jobs to really like get a team that works to your play style and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Has it got fighty monks in it?
It has.
Nice.
What doesn't?
Well, I didn't know if that was just a Final Fantasy thing or if Dragon Quest.
No, yep. Kung Fu monks, they're always
Cool.
good in anything.
It's quite weird though, having like a multiplayer game that has turn-based combat. You know, like you choose a
Yes.
move, then they choose a move, then they choose a move. It's just strange.
Yeah. Sort of waiting for your mates to pick their move to, take someone down, and having to coordinate with them
Mhm.
in the room, is, yes, kind of unusual. But I mean, I played this with when I was off on holiday with my little one, and like that was brilliant because we could like we could get together and go, right, well we're going to take this guy down, and you need to do this and I need to do that, and it was kind of like a nice little bonding thing. So that's why I really got into it, really. But like Ali says, it was simple enough for me to pick up from someone who doesn't play these games a lot. But as you play through it, and the way that it takes you through the story and dishes stuff out to you, and just makes you feel incredibly powerful by halfway through it is it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Like I said, I compared it a lot to like a handheld Warcraft, but a lot more sort of dumbed down.
Yeah. See, there was a
Very
worry
much
that it
so.
would be dumbed down at the time, and but I don't know if that, like, does that hold true? Is it just that it's different rather than being dumbed down or clever
don't-
or whichever way?
I don't think it even really has been dumbed down from, say, Dragon Quest VIII. Obviously, graphically, it had to be streamed back a bit, being on a handheld. But in gameplay terms, there's not, it's just as in-depth as Dragon Quest VIII, because let's face it, that was never really in-depth. It was just about perfecting the little systems which mattered.
See, originally they said it was going to be, quotes, more action-focused in the battles. So, like, maybe that's what confused people, that they thought it's going to be dumbed down. They thought you can't have a real-time Dragon Quest. And then it turns out that it's not. But maybe that's why it feels a bit weird having turn-based as a multiplayer, because it was kind of shoved into keep people happy. Like, does it feel right playing? Like, not that there's a right or wrong, but do you know what I mean? Does it feel
I
odd?
didn't have any issues with it. It felt like it felt like what I imagined a JRPG would.
Yeah, and I suppose World of Warcraft is kind of turn-based in some ways, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You have to wait for your move to take point or whatever. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to kick in.
Yeah. So you've tempted me now to go and find my DS and give it a go.
No, I've got to say it's exceptional. It's one of those ones where next time we meet up, like if you get hold of a copy, we'll have a game, because it's just like Ali was saying, it's just an unusual feeling to have like sort of 4 of your mates, like all sort of all roaming around the map together, and hunting slimes, and just like waiting on turns, waiting on your mate to take his turn, and telling him, right, you need to do this, because if you do that, then I can use this, and it takes so much more damage off.
Would I not be overwhelmed if you were playing like that? We'd be fighting things that are crazy
Mate,
too strong.
come on.
No.
Right, the JRPG idiot would in no way overwhelm you. Trust me.
Fair enough, cool. I just didn't know if you were in these areas where like I'm just going to get like bopped on the nose by a little finger and go dead.
No, not at all. Not at all.
We'll give that a go then.
Yeah.
It actually sold over 2 million copies in its first 2 days on sale, which I suppose is not really a surprise, is it?
No.
DS was a huge success of a console. It's the most successful game in Japan. But Nintendo actually reported a 152% increase in hardware sales in the weeks after release. So it was obviously a massive boost. And though they couldn't have the same success over here in the West, obviously, but they tried their very, very best in the USA. There were cinema and TV commercials featuring Seth Green and like massive launch events at GameStop and Best Buy. Whereas here in the UK, we got adverts and a massive launch event featuring
Jedward. Yeah, I know lots about that.
Yeah, because you worked on this, right?
Yes, I worked on the Covent Garden event. So full disclosure. It was crazy just seeing all these kind of teenagers and
all these
like,
Johns and all these Edwards.
Yeah, like sort of turning up for Jedward, but then like sort of waving their DSs to kind of because you could get a free character to help out with your.
It was actually Jedward's characters that you could get if you were at the event.
Yeah,
and they like cosplayed as them at the event. They like in-game characters.
It was bonkers.
Like the weirdest thing I've ever seen in this country to promote a game by miles.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
And they had a medieval village set up in Covent Garden. Is that right?
Yes, mate. That's what I did. I created the medieval village in Covent Garden.
Well,
yeah. Well, I helped. I should say there was a team of people doing it, but it was all good, man.
Again, it's like level 5 going, well, how can we make this more complicated? Like, we want a launch event for our game. How about we get Jedward and a medieval village in the West End? Yeah, let's do that.
Thing is, though, mate, A, big impact. B, we're talking about it now and we remember it, so it must have worked.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So this was a huge event, and there were TV adverts featuring John and Edward as well. Like for this quite obscure-ish over here JRPG.
Yes, mate.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys are right. People loved it. It won Best Handheld or Best DS Game at like GameSpot all over the place. And then they went on to do some slightly odd things. Like when you consider that this was the biggest franchise in Japanese gaming, their next game called Little Battlers Experience. Now, the Japanese name translates to corrugated cardboard war machines. Like, what?
Nice.
What do you mean by that?
Is that a new type of Metal Gear or what?
I'd love to know. And the Wikipedia page pretty much tells you nothing about it, other than you fight on dioramas made out of cardboard.
Sounds like a Little Big Planet. Like some kind of war type Little Big Planet.
Yep. Again, it's got an anime series in Japan, like following it. So, it was originally released in 2011, and then there's been a Baku Boost edition that came out last year.
I tell you what, they do like to kind of cross the medias, don't they?
Yeah.
With films and books and animes, and kind of they really like to sort of grind the most out of each of their IPs.
They're almost hand in hand with Ghibli in that respect. Do you know what I mean? And also, it's very much the Disney way of doing things, isn't it? And also maybe the Nintendo way. That they're all these companies where it's all about the trust and the sort of familyness and like keeping a little community kind of thing. So,
gotcha.
Like, do you know what I mean? Having all these things that, wow, Like you can get an anime of it, you can get a this of it, you can get a that of it. Like
Yeah, just fostering a community sort of thing.
yeah. I think it's really nice that
Yeah, it's cool.
it keeps communities going. Do you like Valve do it with Steam? It's like the same thing.
Yeah, it's
you know?
clever. Yeah, it's clever, man.
They had another interesting game that I don't think ever came out. It was going to be a PSP RPG called Ushiro. I'll say that again. It was going to be a PSP RPG called Ushiro. It was going to be turn-based, and it's been removed from all their websites. But there was a story in 2010 or 2009, saying it's still in development. This is a year after it's supposed to come out, so who knows if it's somewhere sitting there on their back burner or whether it is cancelled. Obviously, it's not going to come out for the PSP if it does now. It'll probably be a 3DS game, won't it? And then we move on to the one that we've talked about quite extensively anyway. It's Ni no Kuni. Now, there's been an Android game, a DS game in 2010, and obviously the recent PlayStation 3 one. And, do you want to gush about it some more? And be like, clappy, woo! Ni no Kuni.
Woo, yes!
Yeah.
Best game ever, great, brilliant, isn't it? Wonderful. I sound like that bloke off the Fast Show. Yes, oh, brilliant. You know, it's just wicked.
I love when Twitter gets like that, when like a new game's announced and everyone's like, oh,
lost their mind.
Ever. Like with Aliens Colonial Marines, like where everyone thought it was going to be the best thing ever.
It's Aliens, it's got to be brilliant.
Never mind, poor little fellas. Anyway, so they've had like numerous Android games, but we're not going to go into that because they're now a publisher rather than a developer. So I'm sure a lot of these are like outsourced, like ports and stuff like that. So we're not going to go into the Japanese mobile side very much because we haven't got Japanese mobile phone accounts. But yeah, other than that, that pretty much wraps up their career so far. I'd love to see what they're going to do next.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Because the next Dragon Quest isn't by them, is that right?
No, that's right. I believe Square Enix are doing basically Dragon Quest X, which is like their attempt at an MMORPG.
They're bringing it back in house.
Yeah, mate. So yeah, it'd be interesting. It's just to see how that. It's on the Wii U, so
yeah. Where does that leave these guys? I wonder what they're going to do. What's going to be their next RPG project?
Dark Chronicle.
They find out
3.
Yeah, do it. Dark Chronicle 3. Perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway, should we move on to some questions?
Yes, mate. What we got?
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Hogatron's got a question here. He says, "Will there ever be another successful console launch?" And come on, guys, what do you think?
So, what does he mean by successful?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like in terms of your big launches of the past, like PlayStation 2 and even like the 360, they were massive launches. Whereas the ones since have maybe been muted. Would that be a word to use? Maybe.
The launches at the moment. I mean, let's just look at the 3DS and the Vita. They've been kind of. I mean, what would you say? That's a soft launch where they have a stable of titles and then like a fallow period straight afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's that we haven't seen launch windows quite like we see now. Maybe not the actual launch event being different.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just think that I just wonder if you can really call any kind of launch of any system a success. I mean, they're going to be a success in some respect just because they are shifting units. You know, it's just how many units you're shifting, I'd imagine. Yeah. But like, if you mean that it captures people's imaginations and kind of really like it just blows up, then you can't really look much further than the Wii. So if you take that as like the success, yardstick, then I don't think anything really is going to like do that kind of thing again for a while. But I can see like the new Xbox and the whatever the PlayStation 4 is going to be. I can see them people jumping on because I think there's a real ravenous kind of sort of tech head community that really want to have the next big new thing. People are sort of slavering for the next console. So yeah, I think there's it's not going to necessarily be the kind of launch that you would deem a success. I think it's going to be more of a kind of, like you say, a launch window, a constant rollout of stuff. Do you think
that's maybe why they're going entirely head to head this time? Well, we're assuming that they're both going to go head to head for this Christmas. So that it's a launch period, so there's excitement for consoles and gaming as a whole over that period, rather than it be one console just dribble out onto the market.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, I really don't know. with anything like this, you're just literally taking the dice and rolling them and see what happens. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can. There's only so far you can kind of think into it. If it's going to take, it's going to take.
Well, that's it. I mean, people are savvy now. They know that there's maybe not buying a console at launch isn't the best time to buy it. You need to wait for developers to get used to developing on it, and consoles can still be a success, but whether they're going to be big successful launches.
The thing is, nowadays it's more about selling a package as opposed to like back in the PlayStation 2 days. It was just selling a shiny box that did everything. Now it's selling a download service, a streaming service. It's selling their online gameplay. It's not just selling that box anymore.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that whole package right, and if that package isn't appealing, it's not going to drive people to buy it. So yeah.
Also, the generations last so much longer now that they're playing for the long game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? As part of hand in hand of what you're saying, that it follows through. That like they're not looking at the people to buy at launch. They're the people that they're going to kind of like mug off for a couple of years.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? Like they're the ones that are going to fund the people in 2 years who are going to like get the slim version of the console for slightly cheaper, and
exactly.
It's that they look at, isn't it?
But I do think that there will be some big. I mean, even look at this PlayStation event that we're waiting for at the moment. Like they're starting to ramp up the pomp and circumstance and the kind of the P.T. Barnum, bells and whistles of sales. It's like they're trying to the big push. The big.
I'd love it if it was a PlayStation All Stars 2.
But no, I mean, you are going to have like a big fanfare, and everyone's going to make a big deal out of it, and I think it's going to feel like something special,
yeah,
as opposed to necessarily being like, if you look at the hard numbers, it may not be as special as you think it's going to be.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
So yeah, I think so in summary, it will be a success, but not in the way that it used to be.
With showers in the east.
Exactly. It's evolved into something different.
Well, I hope Hogatron's satisfied with that. He's got another question here saying he bought the Circle Pad Pro for the 3DS. So he wants to know what's your favourite gaming peripheral or accessory. And I'm just going to come straight in here and say my favourite is also what I think is possibly one of the worst, and that's the Super Game Boy. Because frankly, who needs to play Game Boy games on a TV? It's a step too far. But what do you guys think?
What about the Super Game Boy? Or
oh yeah.
See, that's an interesting
either way,
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you ever have a Game Boy player for your GameCube? Because not only was it a weird one, they actually followed it up a generation or two later.
See, I didn't even know about that. So again, yeah,
it's this thing that you can put your GameCube on top of, and you can play Game Boy Advance games in it.
Mental.
Really, really weird.
Nintendo do have some of the weirdest peripherals.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, what happened to this like heartbeat sensor thing, or not heartbeat, but pulse? The pulse sensor.
That got quickly kind of shoved to the side when people started taking the mickey out of it, I think. Yeah,
but it could have been revolutionary.
Yeah, it could have been. But then again, yeah.
What's yours, man?
For me, it's got to be from recent times actually. The Tony Hawk's Shred board.
Yeah.
That just like, what were they thinking? Who was sitting there thinking, do you know what I really want to do? I really want to get on a skateboard, but indoors.
One that doesn't move.
Yeah, one that doesn't move. I mean, for the same price that you bought that game, you could have just gone and bought a skateboard and just gone outside. It just didn't make any sense. And there was so much technology on it, and it didn't work. And then you had the game, and the game didn't really need it because it'd play itself anyway. So it was just completely redundant.
It killed the Tony Hawk franchise, basically.
Yeah, totally killed it. And like you were saying to me the other day about like something about shoelaces or something.
Yeah, your shoelace can get in the way of the sensors, like just a slightly more dangling shoelace than the thing is expecting you to have. And the sensors shut out and you can't actually play it.
Because it had like sensors on the side, so if you went down to do like a grab trick or something, it'd work out that your hand was actually covering the sensor. That's the thing, isn't it? So like what you're saying, like you're saying the thing had come down and cover it, and it'd go no. Ridiculous, just completely nonsense from start to finish.
See, my favourite ridiculous one is one that never actually came out. It was a virtual reality headset for the Mega Drive, which, like, obviously I'm never going to use it, but it's still my favourite because I was so excited for it at the time.
Yeah.
like seeing it in all these magazines, like, wow, a proper virtual reality headset for the Mega Drive.
So the thing is, back in those days, like back in the Super Nintendo and kind of Mega Drive era, they just tried everything, didn't they?
Yeah. Like the 32X is kind of one of my favourites just because it's so stupid. Like,
yeah, just things that you plugged your Mega Drive into, things that like you put on. What was that big hexagonal thing that you put on the floor and stood in the middle of the
activator?
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
they just threw everything at the wall and then just went, look, none of this is sticking.
See, it was all of those that I was running through in the little mental list in my mind when I was thinking of this question, and it was like activator or the virtual reality headset or the 32X mushroom or like, or I suppose, is that a peripheral or is it an add-on or is there a difference? Who knows?
Didn't the Master System have like a set of glasses or something?
That had proper 3D glasses. They weren't
Yeah.
red and green. This is proper like we
Active
have now with shutters. Yeah. What were they thinking?
Mental.
Yeah, so I'm going to say all of those Sega ones from the mid-80s to the mid-90s.
Nice.
With special call-out to the one that never happened, the virtual reality headset. So there you go. We've also had a question from Don Ragnar. He says, if you could bring one thing from gaming history back into fashion now, what would it be? E.g. a genre, a peripheral, or an old series?
I've got to say it's the one thing that I always campaign about, but it's kind of bringing people together playing local multiplayer, basically. So anything that can bring that back, the old days of GoldenEye and 4-player split screens and messing about with your mates and just that whole sort of vibe and feeling. I just want to bring that back from old school games because like with driving games, I used to love playing split screen with my mates and local split screen and racing them and doing all that stuff, and kind of Xbox Live and PSN have kind of taken that away a little bit. So yeah, that's the one thing I want to see back in gaming, that sense of coming together for games.
Do you think that like next gen, hopefully they'll be able to do that with the power to be able to have 4 HD sets of visuals running at the same time, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping they'll do something with the OnLive stuff where you can actually watch your mate playing a game and stuff. That might there might be something in that they can do to kind of, maybe picture in picture or something like that. So while you're playing, you can split screen with your mate and see what they're doing and you're doing. I don't know. There's got to be some way around it that you can kind of at least get that kind of vibe back. But there's still nothing beats like.
Is Portal 2 co-op like that?
I don't think it is. I think you get your full screen and they get their full screen and then you play.
Oh,
play
fair
along.
enough. Yeah.
But yeah, it does. There is split screen local as well.
Also, you still get like in living room multiplayer in fighting games and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean you've got stuff like the Wii and the Kinect and that kind of stuff as well. But don't know, it just isn't the same. They
haven't got that GoldenEye factor.
No, exactly. It's like that Sports Friends thing that I did for Kickstarter. I backed that because that's what they're trying to bring back, is that you have to have multiple people to play this. They don't want to take it out to Xbox Live. They actually want to bring people into the same room to, mess about and fight. And you didn't do that. I did
and
this.
Fight.
Yeah, exactly. And fight and generally get rowdy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to basically I want to bring animosity back from the old games.
So that's what you're bringing back. How about you, Ali?
Well, I'm thinking about all the little things that we used to get in games, which we either don't anymore, or it's now sold as DLC. Stuff like Big Head mode, that was in many a football game, fighting game, any type of game. It had a Big Head mode, didn't it? Everything had Big Head mode.
NBA Jam.
Yeah. Or like Monkey mode, or Disco Lights mode, where everything would go a bit trippy and lights would be flashing.
I've just got this picture in my head of like Gears of War, Big Head mode.
Would that not just be Gears of War?
Nice big shoulder mode.
Yeah. Basically stuff like that, which either now doesn't exist or now it's DLC. We used to get that on disc or on cartridge. Now we just don't get it at all. Even at the start of this generation, we sometimes got it. Like for instance, Uncharted 1 had Big Head mode there on the disc for free. Uncharted 3, you have to buy it. I don't like this change that's happening.
Yeah, that's harsh.
Sort of paying for cheats.
Yeah. Because there's no advantage. It's just to have a bit of fun.
That whole EA thing of pay to unlock everything and get an advantage over everyone else.
Yeah.
There's sort of a bit of a hysteria about that with Dead Space 3, isn't there? So it just seems a little bit against the spirit of video games, really, doesn't it?
Exactly.
I'd say so, but it's not going to change now, is it?
No, unfortunately.
What about you, Dan? What would you bring back?
I'd bring back the Phantasy Star series. Sorry if that's a bit of an obscure, weird one. It just reminds me of like the Mass Effect universe is a lot like that, where you've just got all these different types of creatures. But I just love the way it was done in this kind of 8 and 16-bit style, like just an old sci-fi RPG. You don't see many sci-fi RPGs anymore. Do you know what I mean?
So do you not get anything out of Phantasy Star Online, which a lot of people are quite excited about coming out this year?
Yeah, definitely. But the online series isn't the same. I'd like to bring back the single player side of the series.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's not going to happen, is it? Because the online one's so huge. But I am looking forward to that coming out. But it's not proper Phantasy Star, mate.
Yeah.
It's not the real thing.
I never really played any of the really old ones on Mega Drive and whatnot, but they look like just, sci-fi Final Fantasy, basically. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, it pretty much is. It was Sega's answer to like the Final Fantasy and Dragon Quests of the time. But again, it just wasn't your fantasy setting. Like, it wasn't your little medieval towns. It was like little Star Wars encampments in the desert and that kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I bring back. Now, last week we were talking about Overblood, a weird old PS1 game, and Chazzy's now got himself on a mission to like try and find these obscure games, because before you'd only played like Resi and Metal Gear and stuff.
Well,
right?
yeah, it's like kind of I played all the kind of mainstream stuff on the PlayStation 1, and like sort of listening to you guys sort of made me realise that there's a lot of stuff on a lot of hidden gems and a lot of like kind of games that I'd kind of overlooked at the time that maybe I should go back and dig out and just get a knowledge for it, basically.
Yeah, there's some interesting ones out there. So yeah, like please let us know. Like, what's your favourite obscure PS1 game? And Chazzy, will you play it?
Yeah,
for
I'll
the show?
basically play it for the show. So if you get in touch with us on email or Twitter or Facebook and let me know what is the PS1 game that you think that has been overlooked and that I should play, and I will play it for like next week's show. And I'll basically keep doing it. Do it as a bit of a feature if you want. So yeah.
Cool. And you can let us know that. You can find us on Twitter at the AIBots, or you can email at theaibots.com, or you can find us on Facebook. Does anyone know that?
Facebook/the AIBots.
.com.
That's the one. Rearrange those letters into a well-known phrase. So that's a little puzzle for you at home. If you can figure out those, send them in on a postcard.
It's bad that I don't even know our own Facebook URL.
Oh, it's only been up for a couple of weeks. Right.
I'm learning.
So yeah, that's facebook.com/the AIBots. Come and say hello. We'd love to hear from you. And shall we get the focaccia?
Yes, mate. Let's get the hell out of here.
Job done, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.